Let me then turn to the introducing Professor Ray Ison of the Systems discipline at the UK's Open University. In the 6 years that he's been at OU, he's participated in an action research project which has resulted in organizational and structural transformation and the articulation of a systems meta-project concerned with the educating of systems practitioners. In addition, he's written course materials and supervised graduate students, and he's concerned with enhancing his own systems practice and the administrations of OU's graduate programs in environmental decision making. So, and he is, unless my memory slips, the first among several representatives of academic programs that we have as co-hosts, and so it's with very special pleasure that I invite him up to the podium.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak this morning and have a few more minutes than I anticipated. If we wait for the slide to lighten up a bit, my ambition this morning is to really address three things. One was to give you some sense of who we are, some sense of what we do, and to give an overview of some of the interesting questions that we have out of our experiences as a basis for offering an invitation to you to join with us in discussion in the sessions we have this afternoon and this evening, and in the informal sessions that result. I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues from the Open Systems Group at the Open University. Let me talk firstly a little bit about the Open University. It has pioneered, supported open distance learning, and by that I mean that all students have course-related tutors and entry is open to all at undergraduate level. It is Britain's largest university with 166,000 students. 28,000 of these study and taught postgraduate courses. 19% of students are from outside the UK. The median age of new undergraduates is 34, and about 70% of those students who study with us do so whilst in full-time employment. Over 80,000 students study interactively, online, as some component of their courses. We have recently established the Open University of the US Incorporated, and so for those from North America, that might be an innovation that impinges on your consciousness in the future. Our Finance Committee has just allocated £12.5 million for further expansion of our e-university capacity. It is also ranked amongst the top universities in the UK for teaching quality, and we're very proud, at least in the faculty that I come from, that we receive maximum awards in national accreditation systems for our teaching quality. The university as a whole also has 26 subject areas which have been recognised in UK national research assessment exercises as having research of international or national excellence. We here this week come from the Open Systems Group within the Centre for Complexity and Change. This is an umbrella group and under which we conduct our own systems practice, and our sessions this afternoon and this evening will explore our own systems practice, including the design and development of some of our systems courses. Let me now focus a bit on systems practice per se. We have been operating for 30 years in teaching systems, or applied systems, and in that time about 25,000 students have studied our systems courses. There's a paper with one of my former research fellows coming out in systems practice and action, or systemic practice and action research in August, which should give an overview of the history of the developments at the Open University if you're interested. The inspiration for systems teaching came from the founding dean of our Faculty of Technology, who said in these words, what seem to me to be very pertinent issues still today. That anyone who is concerned about technology and environmental issues had to be concerned about their social context and their systemic nature. Our founding dean set up, instead of a faculty of engineering, a faculty of technology, which was in itself, I guess, boundary spanning. He conceptualized disciplines of analysis combined with disciplines of synthesis. And the disciplines of synthesis were those of systems and design, and we have maintained an academic commitment to these two disciplinary areas since its foundation. And he particularly saw these disciplines as acting as areas of interdisciplinary synthesis. So, what's been happening in those 30 years? Just some highlights. About 11,000 students completed over the period 1983 to 99 one of our core undergraduate modules. In recent times, since I've been there, we've created a new undergraduate diploma or certificate, some people might refer to it, in systems practice. And in the year or so that it's been operating, over 1,000 students have claimed this particular award. We have associated with our discipline a new totally online course called You, Your Computer and the Net, and currently in this presentation year 12,000 students are studying that course. This, as you can imagine, presents some quite major challenges to how one innovates at scale and develops logistical support to support students studying at this scale. At the postgraduate area, we have over 300 postgraduate students who have studied the core module, Environmental Decision-Making, a Systems Approach, which is part of our Environmental Decision-Making postgraduate program. And there are materials relating to many of these up in the book display area, and I invite you to study them at your leisure. As Peter announced in his introduction, over the last 6 years we've been engaged in what I would regard as a systemic action research process, which has involved curriculum innovation, organisational and structural change, improving or struggling and attempting to improve our own systems practice, building better relationships with our alumni, and fortunately, but after too long a gap, the appointment of new staff. So, what has happened in terms of our concept of pedagogy over this 30-year period? The main lessons that we have learned are that systems concepts need to be grounded as much as possible in the student's own experience. Case studies of failure, for example, the many IT innovations, and there are many examples of failure in this area. A case study we use in our recent course is the UK Child Support Agency, an organisational innovation which many would regard as a failure. And these have proven to be very powerful ways of engaging students' involvement in the learning in an active way which is beyond their own experience. We also place a great deal of emphasis on developing students' diagramming and other modelling skills as a means of engaging with perceived complexity. Other systems concepts, tools, methods and methodological approaches are taught so as to develop skills in formulating systems of interests for purposeful action. And I highlight those points because we are in a technology faculty, we're applied systems group, and we're interested in the notion of purposeful action. In our recent courses, we have developed the metaphor of the juggler as systems practitioner, juggling 4 particular balls. A very clever juggler, this juggler, as many systems practitioners are, of course. The 4 balls that we imagine this juggler juggling are the processes of being a systems practitioner, in which we try to surface the traditions of understanding out of which the practitioner comes in an attempt to create epistemological awareness and ethical practice. The second ball is that of the engaging, or the e-ball, and it's the way in which perceived complexity is engaged with by the practitioner. And we draw, for example, in this area on Russell Ackoff's distinctions between mess and difficulty and other devices of that nature. The third ball is that of the contextualizing particular approaches. In very simple terms, this is a strategy to avoid what has happened historically in some of our teaching, where students learn particular, what might be called systems methods or systems methodologies, and attempt to apply them to contexts to which they're not relevant. So it's how they contextualize particular systems approaches in situations to which they may be appropriate. And finally, the managing ball, it's how, as a critical, reflective practitioner, these individuals are able to manage all of these elements operating in a particular context. We've focused in our work on particular domains. Our systems practice is concerned with information system, IT developments, environment and sustainable development, and organisations and organisational change. And we have three cross-cutting themes, which are critically reflective systems practice, the design of learning systems, and a consideration of particularly the social and environmental context of technology. We have spent quite a bit of time working collaboratively as groups, developing a heuristic understanding of the sorts of pedagogy we wish to develop. And this is a particular heuristic model which we've used to think about our curriculum innovations and how our suite of systems or systems-related courses fit within the development of the notion of a systems practitioner. And these span from undergraduate to postgraduate level. We have a suite of courses in presentation next year. These are the ones that will be available, and if you're interested, I invite you again to look at the material in the resource room or to consult our websites where you will see descriptions of these particular courses. Now, here this week, our contributions were to have been from Graham Payton, Rosalind Armson, Tony Wright, myself, and Sylvia Brown, a colleague from the Open Business School. It is with great regret that Graham Payton, one of our colleagues, is not with us this week. He was tragically killed last week, in a few days before he and his wife were to depart for this conference. And it is with a spirit of deep remorse and great regret that I acknowledge Graham's contribution to our work at the AU and to the systems movement in general. He was a great enthusiast for systems, and he carried a major load and contributed significantly to our innovations, and collectively we shall miss him greatly. And so for me and my colleagues, our contribution this week is, if you like, dedicated to Graham's memory, and we ask you to acknowledge that in any way you see fit. The other contributions that will be made this week from my colleague Rosalind Armson. She will give an account this afternoon of the pedagogy associated with our third level systems course, and will explore from a personal perspective how her systems practice influenced the design and development of that course. Later this evening she will also run a workshop which explores implicit and explicit metaphors that systems practitioners might use in accounting for their own systems practice. And if anyone is interested, we invite you to join with us for that. My colleague Tony Wright will also give a paper anchored in his own systems practice and concern with stress, a phenomenon all too common in university life, and many other aspects of organisational life, and he has brought his systems thinking to bear on that issue. Later this evening, Tony will run a workshop in which he will further explore our experience of difference and the stresses that result out of difference. And again, I invite any of you interested in these issues to join in that workshop. The future, like many in organisations at the moment, we are absolutely overcommitted and find ourselves considerably stressed. We are striving to explore what it might mean to work more sustainably, but also to work more ethically, and particularly in taking up Heinz von Forster's notion that to increase the choices we have for ourselves and for our students. This also resonates with our notion of maintaining the question, what constitutes openness for our students as we move into a new era of higher education, which is increasingly technologically mediated. We're also concerned as to how to enhance our own systems practice and to strive to narrow the gap between espoused theory and our theories in use. How do we live our own systems practice? We have aspirations for further expansion of our postgraduate offerings, and we have a desire to engage with others in building communities of systems practice, and possibly to join with others in developing learning resources for capacity building in systems practice. And we're particularly excited by some of the notions that are emerging out of the open source movement and the copyleft tradition that is emerging as a means of underpinning collaborative innovation in this area. Out of our collective activities, I'd like to, before concluding, share a few big questions, what I regard as big questions, which arise out of our teaching, research and personal experiences of systems practice. I don't think we understand very well what the relationship is between systems thinking and systems practice as a recursive area of human activity. I think it's embodied in this workshop, we live in a world in which the reification of current first-order conceptions of knowledge, information and effective communication constrain organisational change and the evolution of new communities of practice. And I think this is an issue worthy of further engaging with. A question we must ask for our own practice and pedagogy, and with the emerging notions of the net, is it possible to manage for self-organisation and emergence, and if so, how? And what would, in this context, manage mean? In the session yesterday afternoon, the question came up quite a lot about systems pedagogy. It's a very under-researched area, and if any of you have files put away which throw insights on this, which have never seen the light of day, I'd very much welcome entering into discussion with you. But there's been very little serious research about what constitutes the circumstances in which people might become systems thinkers and practitioners. And finally, what constitutes ethical systems practice, particularly in relation to the issues of global sustainable development and the threats of enclosure of the knowledge or information commons. As we speak, a consortium of universities called Universitas 21, which includes universities from around the globe, are meeting, their representative, the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Melbourne in Australia, are meeting with members of Microsoft and News Corporation to explore what their notion of the e-university might be. I can't imagine it is going to be an e-university based on an open source or copyleft model. So really, what is the social role of universities in the future, in this new world that is opening up before us? and to what extent does systems ideas and systems practice contribute to what that might become. My final slide is essentially an invitation to join with us in conversation to explore our particular traditions of understanding as systems practitioners, so that we might engage more meaningfully with situation improving in real-world situations for taking effective, purposeful action. It seems to me that the struggle to engage and surface our particular traditions of understanding, as Umberto said this morning, is one that we shy away from far too often. And I like to think that in the sessions that we will conduct this afternoon, we might create the conversational space in which these particular traditions can be explored. And I might just add that I was somewhat appalled yesterday that one speaker decried engagement with history, and it seems to me that to deny the historicity of our social processes is to deny the future. So on that note, I'll stop. Thank you.